I was really concerned about this game because of their record, to be honest. I know how hard that is for young guys to understand how a team can be good if they don't win. But I watched the tape. That coach has been coaching there almost as long, almost as long as I've been alive, actually. So he's not guessing out there. He knows what he's doing. He's got an experienced group of guys, and they're just trying to find their rhythm. I knew they would be a tough team to play against. Their percentages, I couldn't speak to the things that I knew about them to my team. I knew they were going to shoot a lot of threes, but their percentages coming into the game, I mean, it's hard to tell a bunch of freshmen these guys can shoot when their percentages are 20% or 17%. But certainly they showed tonight what they're capable of doing, and the team I think is going to be really good. I got a lot of respect for Coach Campy. Hard for a win for us, one where we can learn a lot from. The urgency that we got to play with consistently on the defensive end wasn't there tonight. And I look forward to using this opportunity for us to build on and be better the next time out.
You know, what you just ended that statement there with is what Cade ended with, too. He said, this is a game that's going to make us better. Could you maybe unpack that a little bit? What about this game makes you better?
Well, one of the things that you got to be able to do is you got to be able to hang your hat on something. And for us, our identity has to start on the defensive end. And we didn't have the defensive focus consistently through the game. We had spurts. We'd get up 7, and we let them run off 3 threes, and we'd be down. We get up 8, we let them hit 2 threes, it'd be a one-possession game. And just understanding how to take a lead and extend it, to go from up 8 to up 15, certainly something that we're going to need to be able to do because, again, as we get into conference play, and Oakland's a really good team, they got really good players and a really good coach, that's every night in our conference. And so as we get prepared for that in 2 weeks, we got to understand that we can't take plays off, possessions off. We got to play every possession with a sense of urgency that the game could be tipped on that particular possession.
Members of the media, if you have a question for Oklahoma State coach Mike Boynton, please click raise hand and we'll try and get to everybody. Our first question is going to come from Dean Rule from the Oak-Collie. Go ahead, Dean.
Hey, Coach, I was just wondering if you could talk maybe a little bit toward the strength that, Cade Cunningham kind of being able to turn it on whenever he wants and being able to kind of switch the momentum just on a dime. What strength does that give your program?
A lot's been talked about his talent. His talent, his ability just naturally is unique. He can make plays for other people, which is where his probably greatest strength is. He elevates the level of play of the guys with him, but he also has a good feel for knowing when to pick his spots. He knew we were kind of struggling to get going offensively, particularly from 3. And, one of the knocks on him is apparently he's not supposed to be able to shoot. But I've watched the kid for a long time. I've never felt like he couldn't shoot. And certainly feel comfortable with him shooting threes, which he did at a pretty efficient clip today. So I don't want him ever to get comfortable with being able to turn it on and off. That's a unique skill that maybe he hopes to have. But I know that this game requires an unbelievable amount of respect. And if you respect the game enough and you play it the right way, which he does, then you'll get rewarded more often than not. But if you decide that you're going to play a game where you're going to turn it on and off and maybe not play as hard, which he doesn't do. He plays hard pretty much. It's just that sometimes the game, to be honest, it looks easy for him because he doesn't have to exert as much energy to do something like I would. Like I would need 10 times the amount of energy to do what he does on the court. I'm not as big as he is. Don't have the type of vision that he does. But because it looks like it's easy doesn't mean he's not giving effort. He's just got to fine-tune some things on the defensive end, and that'll take him to a whole nother level for our team.
Thank you, Coach.
Our next question comes from Jimmy Gillespie from the Stillwater News Press. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Hey, Coach. I could be wrong here, but the other night against Marquette, it seemed like you guys on the perimeter switched a lot defensively. Tonight, there wasn't as much switching. That lead to more like open three-pointers tonight?
You know me, Jimmy. I try not to go into what specifics of the game. I need to watch the film. The game plan wasn't to switch. We didn't play as much zone. We didn't play very much zone at all today. And they exposed some weaknesses for us. Some guys with lack of urgency on the defensive end. Let one guy make 10 threes is totally unacceptable. We got to be better than that. And I credit Bryce Williams. He had about 4 possessions there in the second half where he just made up his mind that kid wasn't going to get one off, and if he did, it was going to be a forced one over his hand. He really helped us extend the lead there middle of the second half, and he was the difference in the game for us defensively.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Coach.
Our next question comes from Jacob Unruh from the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Jacob.
Mike, I know you just said it's unacceptable for one guy to hit 10 threes, but what did you see from him tonight? I mean, that was pretty impressive.
Oh, he's a hell of a player. What I saw was the same thing I saw in film from last year. Problem was, again, I couldn't look at his stats from this year and tell our guys, hey, this guy's a really good player. Because what they're seeing is an 0-5 team where their guys' percentages don't look like they can shoot, even though they still shoot a lot. And I was telling them, hey, they got a bunch of guys who shoot a lot of threes, and their coach has been there 37 years. If those guys couldn't shoot, he wouldn't let them. But it's hard, right, when they haven't made them, and part of the reason they haven't made them is they haven't practiced. They haven't found that rhythm yet. Well, tonight they found their rhythm, and we were the victim, and credit to them for taking advantage and exploiting that. And hopefully it's something that we can learn from so we don't replicate it as we move forward in the season.
What did you think of Ice tonight? I mean, he's done a lot of things to start the season, but it seemed like he got going offensively a little faster tonight.
Yeah. Against the zone, which they did a lot, we were able to play through him in the high post a lot. It was kind of I got to be careful sometimes with how much I move Cade around. And because he had it going from 3, and I usually like to put him in the high post, I didn't want to take that away from him. So we put Ice in there a little bit more, which opened up some opportunities for him to catch the ball in the middle of the zone and attack, which he did early and felt good about the way he got started.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Marshall Scott from Pistols Firing. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, Coach, you touched on this a little bit with Jimmy, but were you happy with the way that you guys were defending threes? Because they did make a lot of contested ones. Ice mentioned here one in the corner where he's all over him, it still goes in. Were you happy with the way that you contested them, or what are some things that you could have done differently?
Well, I wasn't happy with the way we guarded them early. And what our guys, especially our younger guys, got to understand is the momentum of the game, the confidence. Anybody who's played, right, you hit your first 2 or 3 shots, and now it feels like even the contested ones you can make. And that was the fact today. I mean, we let them get 4 or 5 uncontested looks off to start the game. And they made them, and then they felt in a pretty good rhythm. And now got a bunch of young guys out there trying to defend screens that they just don't have the urgency to defend yet. But, again, I'm glad we're able to get out here with a win. I got a lot of film to be able to break down and show our guys the way we can be exploited. And credit goes to them. They ran good offense, and we held off a really, really good team that I think is going to win a lot of ball games moving forward.
You've seen a 2-3 this year. You've seen a lot of man-to-man. Today you saw a 1-3-1. Just how beneficial could this be that you guys have seen now all these defenses and those freshmen have kind of got their feet wet with it?
It's great. I've always tried to schedule, and again, that record doesn't indicate it that they're a good team, but I know that they're going to be a good team as they move along in the season, as they get more practices under their belt, and that this win is going to help us immensely as we move forward because of the style of play, because they shoot so many threes. We'll see teams in our league that play a similar style, maybe not the 1-3-1 zone, but offensively, the way they try to attack us. And, again, I need to identify some guys that I know I can put on people when they get going, and Bryce Williams showed up and raised his hand tonight.
We've talked about, Caleb struggles a little bit at Marquette. He was able to stay on the floor tonight. What do you think of his performance?
Yeah, it was a conscious effort. It kind of I don't know. I want to say I made a concerted effort to try to play through him early because I wanted to get him going, but it's not necessarily ideal against his own. It really isn't. Probably a slap on the wrist for me for trying to force feed it and for not adjusting to play our zone a little bit more, but I needed our guys to learn how to do some things in a more disciplined fashion and to be able to get out here and win. A lot to learn, a lot to show on film. Hopefully we can learn from this and be better on Tuesday night when we play ORU.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Chris Becker from the Ocala. Go ahead, Chris.
Coach, you just talked to Marshall about Caleb Boone. What is his development like? How does that add to this team, and what does he bring to this team that that as he grows, the team can only get better?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he's long and athletic the way we like him. He's a guy who can make plays around the rim, both offensively and defensively. He can run the floor. He's probably one of the quickest bigs in the Big 12. So without a bunch of girth or physical strength, he can use his quickness to his advantage. And he's got a pretty good feel in the post for scoring. We just got to get him a little bit more comfortable knowing when he's going to get the ball, when we're going to be able to run plays to him, and how he's going to, be able to impact the game, because so much is made of how much pick and roll we play with Cade. And sometimes that means we don't maybe throw the ball to the block as much and feature him. Well, tonight, especially because they were in zone, we didn't have as many pick and roll opportunities, but we were able to get the ball to him inside, and he was a lot more effective than he has been the last couple.
And you talked about rebounding almost every time we talked to you this year. How would you grade out your rebounding performance tonight?
I thought we did a great job, and I thought Caleb led the charge for us there. Obviously, we always talk about our guards having to help us there because we don't have a ton of depth inside, and I thought we did a pretty good job. I think we were plus 10 on the glass, which is our goal. And so anytime you hit that type of goal, you'll give yourself a chance, especially if you're getting out and being able to get shot opportunities in transition, which we were able to turn a lot of those defensive rebounds into baskets.
Thanks, Coach.
Our next question comes from Ryan Breeden from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned their 1-3-1 zone that Oakland runs a little bit. Do you feel like that gave you guys some problems, maybe with some turnovers and bad decision-making early on?
A little bit. We weren't very sharp offensively. And a lot of that goes to them. It's the first time we've seen a 1-3-1. So it's a different zone, and you got to attack it differently than you do a 2-3. So it took a little bit of adjusting for us, but I thought the adjustments we did with the game looked pretty good, and we were able to get the shots that we wanted for the most part.
And then I asked Ice a little bit about like the number for the turnovers you guys had tonight was 17, but Ice mentioned, he said, that number is a little bit deceiving because of just some things that maybe went wrong within the offense on a couple of possessions. Do you feel like turnovers at all played a factor in allowing them Oakland to stay in the game a little bit longer than you guys had hoped?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, and it's hard. I can't really pinpoint specifics from the game until I watch the film, but I do, for some reason, I remember not many of them being live ball turnovers, meaning a steal that led to a basket. It was a charge, or we throw it out of bounds, and we were able to set our defense, which wasn't great tonight, but at least we were able to set our defense and not giving up a bunch of easy baskets. But they made a ton of challenge threes. It certainly is the 17. The number of turnovers at 17. We got to bring down, regardless of how they go.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Joseph Fazio from the O'Colly. Go ahead, Joseph.
Coach, tonight you had 5 players scoring double figures. How did you just feel about the way this offense moved tonight?
Again, I thought after the first, handful of possessions where we kind of fumbled a couple and missed a couple layups, I thought we ran pretty good offense. It took a little while for our guys to adjust to where the open passes were, where the open cutting lanes were against the zone. But again, I thought for the most part, our offense wasn't the issue. Defensively, they picked us apart pretty good. And I didn't want to give our guys a pass on that end. It's something that we have to hang our hat on. We got to be a good, solid defensive team. We got to be a really good defensive rebounding team, and we got to be a team that takes care of the ball on offense. And those 3 things we did not do a great job of, and it's definitely something that we got to get better at immediately.
And later in the second half, you had about a 9-minute stretch of not giving up any 3-pointers to Oakland. Was that just a defensive change you made, or was that just a natural progression?
No, I mean, we talked about it at every time out. We talked about it coming into the game. And again, it's hard to get guys to look at their percentages and believe you that they can make them. And then they jump up and make a bunch of them. And they're like, oh, okay. Now they start paying attention a little bit more. But at that point, again, the confidence is flowing. And again, I got to give a lot of credit to Bryce Williams for stepping up and taking on the challenge. I've really just taken that kid out for 5 or 6 possessions in a row there. And then it fed into Ice, and it fed into Rondell, and we were able to get out in transition and score some easy baskets, which gave us some separation from them from a scoring standpoint.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Excuse me, I turned myself on mute. Our next question comes from Marshall Scott from Pistols Firing. Go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, Mike, what is it like with the spread out bench? I imagine it's a little, more different. You can't really go to guys and talk to them while they're on the bench because you'd have to step away from the court. What has that been like?
It's weird. It's one of the hardest things for me because I like to talk to the guys about things that are happening in the game. I don't know where my guys are, to be honest. And so it's different. That's something I'm still trying to get adjusted to. And instead of driving myself crazy with trying to find people, I've just decided that I'm just going to sit to the court and try to focus on the guys in the game more, and hopefully rely on my staff to do a good job coaching those guys that aren't in the game. But it's definitely still taking some getting used to for me to figure out just the whole bench setup.
That's what kind of was my next question. Do you rely more on the bench staff to find those guys? Is that something you've talked to them about, or is that just kind of something that you need to naturally happen?
No, it's something we continue to talk about. I mean, this is an evolving situation. I don't know if what we're doing is what we'll do in a month. It's something it's one of those unique things that's just different, hopefully for just this year, right? But certainly different from anything we've ever done before. I've never had guys like 3 rows behind me that they're supposed to play. And so it's a challenge. I've asked the staff to just be conscious of, if I forget about someone comes out, if Ice comes out and he's out for 5 minutes, that can't happen, obviously. Somebody needs to send his ass to the scores table, and I'll figure out who needs to come out when the sub comes. So it's definitely something different for us.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, our next question comes from Chris Becker from the Oakland. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Coach. You guys started slow against Marquette last game, and then again this game. What's your message to the team about those slow starts and to kind of overcoming those?
I mean, it's not ideal. You never want to start behind, but we just talk about the process of the game. We play the game in 4-minute segments. It's a timeout. We get to make adjustments, substitute. We have halftime, and so we don't necessarily focus on one particular part of the game. We always want to get off to a good start, but it's not make or break. It's not make or break at halftime. And obviously, we've shown we can come from behind and play well, and we can play with a lead. So we just got to continue to understand the urgency, possession after possession after possession, whether it's from the jump ball to the final buzzer. Every possession has value in our game, and the more we take care of the basketball and get defensive rebounds and stops, the better and more efficient that we're going to be on the other end of the court.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach, so Bryce kind of drawing a line in the sand and saying, enough, I'm gonna make the stops here. There's kind of an implied grittiness there. Is that kind of his nature, and do you feel like that is maybe a sustainable role that he may be able to fill throughout the course of the season?
Yeah, no question. It's not just a grittiness. There's a physical ability element to this too. I was a gritty defender, but I didn't have his feet. I didn't have his athletic quick twitch where he could go make a play on the ball in the air. I was literally just the best positional defender that any of my coaches. I could never be in the wrong place. If I was, I didn't have any value to my team. Bryce can gamble. He can kind of get his hands on balls. Rondell's got some of that to him as well. And so those guys have tremendous value whether you play man or zone, because in the zone they can cover a lot of ground. And in the man, you can just kind of sick him on a guy and say, hey, he's yours. Kind of the Revis Island mentality from football. Just take this guy out, don't let him get one off, and he did a pretty good job of it tonight.